Sorry, I think we're having some technical difficulties, so this will take a little longer than expected. I can start by introducing myself though. I'm Iara. I'm the developer of Mimu. We're currently in a million servers, and I'm also the community lead of TopGG. Mac owns PixxieBot, which is currently in I think around 35,000 servers. And his bot is a utility bot, and mine is an economy bot. We are still waiting for Mac due to some technical issues, but thank you so much for coming. And feel free to drop your questions in the thread. We'll go through and discuss that.
I think I'm in.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Okay. So, would you like to introduce yourself, Mac? I quickly introduced you, but feel free
Yeah,
to.
yeah, sure. Yeah, so I'm Mac. I'm a community manager at TopGG, and I'm mostly in charge of events. So yeah, I usually manage events at TopGG, but then in my spare time, I also run my own bot, which is called PixxieBot. And it's like a fun bot, like a fun social bot you can use in your servers to play games with friends and socialize with people. So yeah, and it's in 35,000 servers.
Yeah, thank you, Mac. So I think the first thing we really wanted to talk about is, how hard it is to be a solo developer. I think because we're both actually solo developers, despite the size, I think it's extremely stressful and something we were actually talking about on a personal level in the past as well. So Mac, tell me how that was for you in your experience.
Yeah, I agree. Like I know you posted about this on Twitter recently, and it's something I really resonated with because like as a solo dev, I think there are a lot of challenges, but also some rewards. Like like there are challenges in the way that when something breaks or you're not sure like how to fix an issue you have, then you can end up feeling kind of like in over your head and not you don't know like how to get out of the situation. So sometimes it can be quite tricky. Um, and like even like reaching out for help and being vulnerable, especially as your bot starts to grow, it can feel sometimes like you're kind of ruining your reputation sometimes. At least that's the impression I get.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, like what do you think?
Yeah, for sure. I think, especially when I posted it, I definitely didn't expect so many people to be like, hey, like I also experience like extreme burnout and like when I'm sick and the body's down, I have to get up and work, and I guess it's sort of a little bit like freelancing. That's how I would say it because there's sort of an element of like, oh, you can't really control when you work um and you kind of have to continue to push through even when you're really, really tired. So there's no PTO, there's no annual leave,
Oh
And
yeah.
so yeah, so it's always like a kind of like a marathon that you kind of have to continue to run on and not a sprint. But I think when it comes to coding in general, I think motivation kind of comes in like bursts. So you kind of, yeah, it's like a high you kind of have to reach. So I definitely see where you're coming from. It's also difficult to like reach out to the community of developers. Um, sometimes just asking for help is embarrassing, I guess, which is honestly a really, really bad thing. Like that's definitely not the culture that we should be encouraging. So
Yeah, absolutely. I think, I totally agree. And I think a lot of solo devs feel the same way. It's just I feel like
yeah.
a lot of people don't like to speak about it. But
Yeah. I
yeah.
think it's like a societal thing, kind of like not wanting to talk about it. When I did post that message, I surprisingly had a lot of people reach out to me and be like, "Hey, I actually experienced this as well. Like, I cannot relate more." And I was super surprised and yeah. So I think speaking up about it and raising awareness about it is the only thing we can really do about it. But
Yeah,
but I think
absolutely.
honestly, like this kind of burnout happens regardless of whether you're a solo dev or maybe there's two devs or three devs, for small teams in general.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
it also has its rewards though. I think it's not just
yeah,
a bunch of challenges. Like something I love about being a solo dev is when, you come up with this idea of something you want to make and you have to go through the whole process of thinking like like how you're going to come up with the idea for a start, and then thinking about how to execute on it, making some tests, like some proofs of concepts to see if you can get like the bones of it working, and then building it up and fleshing it out and bringing it to something that's ready for like production and pushing it out. That's something that the whole process I really enjoy, like, going through like working all that out.
I
Feel really
honestly
like
think
proud of what you've done.
it's such a thrilling process. It's like you get to wear all these different hats, from product to design to, planning the go to market, to actually coding it yourself, and possibly like, doing the art and whatnot. And it's so much fun, like the marketing, the strategy, the everything. Especially for people who just like kind of getting involved in everything. Definitely someone like me. Yeah. Okay. Um, yeah, so let's talk a little bit about what a little bit of an overview of this event, since we've kind of dived in really, really quickly. Mac, do you want to take this?
Yeah, so basically the idea is next Tuesday, so this time next week, we will be organizing an event in our Discord server, but we'll be streaming it to YouTube. And so the idea is we're going to be showing basically like beginners how to get started with a Discord bot. So for example, if you are a server owner and you have always been kind of interested in making your own bot, but you've never coded anything before, or you have very little coding experience, then this is like something that might be interesting to you. So the idea is basically you can join the event. We'll give you like the bare bones of like a basic bot, but then we will talk like we'll go through the whole process of creating the bots, getting it started, and then coding a new command. And so we'll be explaining line by line through the code what the different parts of the code do. And so the idea is that basically by the end of the event, you will have like the basic knowledge you need to start going and looking for help in other places, to be able to work on your own bot and come up with your own ideas and create something unique.
Yeah, thank you, Mac. Yeah, I think you covered it really, really well. Okay, I think we can hop into the first question. Mac, do you want to look at it?
Yeah, okay. So the first question we had was from Krypton, who is a staff member at TopTG. And he asks, what would you do differently now that you have more experience compared to when you started making your bots?
Yeah, I can take that first if you want.
Yeah.
I feel
Sure.
like it's been so long since I started, but I can share like some of my learnings like 1 year in. I definitely think like what I'm learning right now, like scaling, clustering, like I don't need to learn that when I began. So, but I can share like when I actually began, I used like a file-based database. I used SQLite, which was not good. It was not good. It was a file, which means it could get corrupted. As a result, it would get corrupted very often, and I would lose like chunks of data.
Oh no.
So that was probably like my biggest learning. Don't do that. Don't use a JSON file. Don't use just a plain DB file. Like that's a bad idea. And also when I started sharding, it like would corrupt. Like when I began sharding, because multiple processes were kind of trying to access that file and write and read to that file, it was just not great. So I don't recommend it.
Can you imagine Mimu running on like a JSON right now?
Yeah, it was not a good idea. I definitely don't recommend it. Thankfully it was not JSON, so it was like a little bit better, but still pretty bad. So one of the first things I did when in my first rewrite was I swapped to a proper SQL database. I still use SQL to this day, but I basically rewrote the entire code to use like pooling and connections, and the database is hosted separately. So So yeah, and I try to do, I guess something that people like most people don't do is they don't do backups, especially in other servers. So I definitely recommend doing that. I've actually done that from the beginning, from even when it was a file. So that was a good thing. I try to do like hourly / minute databases, the database recoveries. So that way, if I end up breaking something, it's easy. It's really easy to recover. Yeah. Okay. What is your learning, Mac? Share with me.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, definitely backup databases. Luckily, I've never been in a situation where I need to restore one, but definitely do it.
Oh, at the
But
number of times I've dropped an entire column.
oh no. I think like for my one thing I would recommend now that I have more experience, I would say not necessarily something coding related, but I would say don't get caught up in statistics and numbers. I think it's important, like, not to compare your bot to someone else's, because there's always going to be a bigger one out there. And also, like, I don't think you can compare your bot to someone else's because, like, your bot has something unique that other bots don't have. And I think it's more important, like, to focus on what you're making and enjoy what you're making. And as long as you are improving and your product is improving and you're growing at a rate you want to grow at, then I think that's the most important thing. And I don't think it's a good idea to like compare your own product to others in that way, like your own bots. Um,
Hmm.
because I
I
know
sort
that's
of
something like
I
that
sort
new
of have to
developers do a
disagree.
lot.
I guess maybe it's like a scale thing, but I always look at other bots and compare, like competitive benchmarking, basically. I compare everything. It's like the product side of me just being like, I need to be better in all ways. But I also think that, like, especially when you're working on a project that doesn't really make money, like in the sense that a full-time job would, it definitely isn't helpful because it kind of gets you down and is demotivating. You kind of lose the passion that you had when you first, created this thing and was like, oh, I want to solve this problem. So I definitely see where you're coming from.
Yeah, I think like as long as you're improving like month on month or week on week or year on year or whatever, then I think like, if it's something you're just doing like as a side project, as like a passion project, then I don't think it's worth getting too stressed out about, oh
Yeah,
my
yeah,
God, I'm not in like 1,000 servers or whatever.
yeah. That's
Yeah,
very true. And try not to compare things you can't control. Like, for example, if your bot is slow because you can't afford a server that's more expensive or something, like, don't stress out about something that you can't control. Like, if it's
yeah,
about code quality, then you can control that. But if it's something you can't control, don't stress about it.
yeah,
Okay,
absolutely. Totally agree. Okay,
let's let's
all
check
right.
the second question. I
Yeah,
think this one
sure.
is from Quinton. He asked, "What's the biggest frustration when it comes to the Discord API?" Do you want to take a crack at this one?
Sure. Um, Frustrations when it comes to the Discord API. Like, I think sometimes maybe just there are a lot of new interaction features which are going like in the pipeline, and there are some I'm really eager to get to use, but like there's no sign of them coming anytime soon. So maybe that's the only thing that kind of gets me frustrated. But apart from that, I don't really get too worried about that kind of thing. So
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't
I
know. What
think
about you?
I think for me, it's the fact that it keeps changing. Maybe I'm just old and slow,
Yeah.
but it's like recently been changing. I think ever since Intense release, they've been like massively like changing it every couple months, requiring like rewrites and rewrites and deprecating very quickly. So like I feel like I've only swapped to V12 like only like or was it V6 or V7? Like I don't remember. Like I feel like I've only just swapped to a new version, but then now it's deprecated. I'm just like, oh no. But like rewrite after rewrite. So yeah, I think that is it for me. Yeah, I think most of the other issues that I experience with the API is mostly due to the library I chose. So kind of my fault. I dug my hole. So I have to stick in it.
Okay. All right. Well, next question. We'll go on to the next question. So the next question is from DanielGolan, and he asks, what are your recommendations in terms of languages and libraries for Discord bot development? Okay.
Yeah.
Do you want to go
Um,
first on this?
yeah, for me, I think honestly, the library or the well, library specifically, no, I can't really say to that. But what when it comes in terms of language, you should always use a language that you're best at. So like, unless you're planning on having a bot that's huge, but like I feel like most people don't actually plan for their bot to get huge. Like it just happens, like usually by accident. Yeah, so like for example, something that kind of comes to mind is the bot Pokecard that kind of just blew up. And I remember talking to Miles and he was like, oh yeah, it was supposed to be a meme, and then suddenly it just became like a thing. so
Yeah.
so I think like scaling and stuff you can't really control. So you usually don't really like I would just not consider that as an element, but usually I would suggest a language that you actually like and enjoy the syntax of, because if you don't enjoy it, you're gonna like it's gonna suck. It's gonna be like working at a job with a language that you kind of just learned in university or high school, and you just kind of have to do it just but you don't really have much passion towards it. So choose a language that you like, even if it's something really bad or not accepted. You can work with the API and make your own library. There's always different things. So proficiency and also what you enjoy would be what I would recommend. What about you, Mac?
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. It's good to use something that you're like familiar with.
Yeah,
Um, like I don't think there's any perfect language out there. I think it depends on the person. So like if you have some development experience already, and for example, like you've used Python before on like a different project and you're just getting into bot development, then you might as well start with that, I think.
yeah.
Like
I think
because it'll make your learning code like makes the learning curve easier, I think. If you already are familiar with the language. Like I think that kind of
yeah,
helps
yeah.
at least.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's like it's sort of some sort of familiarity, and it's because you've already worked with it before. It'll definitely strengthen your knowledge with that language, like in this specific scope, and it'll be like a lot easier to get into and stay motivated and stuff. Especially since I think most Discord bots are passion projects or just something for their servers. So
Yeah. I feel like though, like for new developers who are just getting started, and like even like people who have no experience whatsoever in development, and they want to make a Discord bot, I usually recommend JavaScript to them because the I feel like the JavaScript library has like the most resources out there, and it's the easiest to get help for, I feel. So
yeah,
yeah,
perhaps. I can't really say otherwise. I think the Python libraries are also pretty good, but um,
yeah.
I think that the JavaScript libraries update a little bit faster and so. Okay. So I think the next question is also from Krypton. He asks, why spend so much time on developing Discord bots and not, for example, like a Twitter bot or something completely different? I actually have an answer for this, but I want to hear from you first, Mac.
Well, I think like one look at my Twitter profile pretty much answers the question. Like, I don't really use Twitter or any other social media, so I mostly use Discord. I mean, I briefly looked into making a Facebook Messenger bot a few years ago for a client, but we didn't end up actually doing it. But like, since I spend most of my time on Discord and not on any of the platforms, then that's kind of why I got into bot development on Discord. But also, I feel like Discord really favors social interaction, and that's something I like to build my bot around. So that's just like the perfect fit for me. What about you?
Yeah. So for me, I actually started getting into bot development because I had a Discord server. So I don't think I can have a Discord server anywhere else. So that's how I got into Discord bot development. I have actually recently thought about, oh, what if I created a Twitter bot? But I think like if I was in the stage I am right now and Mimu didn't exist, I probably wouldn't create a bot. Like I would just be too busy. So I think it's like kind of like your timing, your passion, and what you're interested in at that time. For me, it just isn't it right now. But I think in the future, if I do work on other projects, I would want it to be like a web based project of some sort.
Yeah, cool.
Okay. Yeah, I think okay, so I think the next question is from Jade, and they ask, what was one of the biggest issues slash bugs that you've encountered when deving your bot, and how did you overcome it?
I once had, like, in my first year, a whole month where my bot was just dead and I had no idea how to fix it. It was just like so bad. I literally tried everything and I wasn't able to get it fixed at all. And it was just quite stressful. It was like the biggest bug I had. I can't remember what it was and like how I solved it, but
No worries.
like I mean, it was awful. Like the whole of the month of September was just offline, and I'm just feeling so bad about it. And it's just like, yeah. But like
Yeah,
times
yeah.
like that can be really taxing on your like self-esteem as a developer. You just feel like totally incompetent sometimes. But
Yeah, yeah, for
anyway,
sure.
yeah.
Um, it's so sad that you don't remember. I think one of my biggest ones was when Mimu would get Cloudflare banned like over and over again. Like I would put it online and then it would get Cloudflare banned. I would like, and I don't. Funny thing enough, I don't remember what exactly caused it either. I think I think what happened was I swapped the cluster system, and it was it was like the library I was using was doing this thing that would intentionally spam it because I modded it. Like I modded the library to make it work, but I didn't mod the part that was causing it to rate limit. It was a very like hidden issue, and it was something that like I don't think anyone really could answer me about. I guess like the more into scaling like a Discord bot, which is not intended to be scaled. Like the more you get into it, the more you experience these like issues where you're like, okay, something, this doesn't really add up or really work the way we would want it to. So, and the issues kind of become a little bit more excluded and less common because of that. So,
Yeah,
so yeah, it's difficult, I think.
yeah. This next question is kind of related. So this is from Alexander, who's a bot reviewer at TopGG. And he asks, how do you handle such a high volume of command usage without the bot slowing down?
For me, this is not a good thing, but I mean I do vertical and horizontal scaling, but my server is like my dedicated server is really large. It's 256 gigs of RAM and 32 cores. So it's like really big server. So I think that personally helps me. But I also try to scale like and like with clusters and whatnot. But I think ultimately for me, it's always been putting more resources and making sure things are just more effective and fast.
Yeah, yeah, same for me. It's like trying to find that sweet spot, like that balance between adding more resources and making it efficient enough for it to be like fast enough as well and not having to
Yeah.
go fetching stuff. I feel like, yeah, finding that balance is that's a lot of RAM though.
Yeah.
But yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I also use other stuff like I use a lot of caching. So because I think cache
Mm,
is really fast and good. So I cache a lot. Uh and yeah, I definitely recommend caching if you don't do that already.
absolutely. Yep. Totally. Also, like you can also like break it down to microservices as well and have like different processes that manage different things like voting or server stat posting or like premium memberships and stuff like that. Instead of
Oh
running
yeah.
everything on like the one process, which I feel like a lot of developers do in the early days, is just have everything running on the bot process. But you can split those off to different processes as well, and even on different servers, and that can sometimes like make things a little bit more smooth.
Yeah, and it's also a lot easier to identify the issue when this happens.
Yeah.
At first, I was actually like when I was still like a mediocre or beginner dev, I would actually not want to split up to microservices. Like I had another developer for a while, and they would be like, "Hey, you should split it up," and I'm like, "No, like I don't want it to be all over the place." And then over time, I like after they left, I actually ended up doing that. So, so, so yeah, like I think splitting up to microservices is a really good idea. The more, the better, honestly.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So
Okay.
next question, next question is from Alexander, as well. And so this one is on a scale from 0 to 10, with 0 being not painful to 10 being extreme pain. How would you rate the switch from normal text commands to slash commands?
Um, so for me, I think it's extreme pain, but like I think the reason why it's extreme pain for me, like being 10, is because I actually, like in this rewrite, I decided to change everything as well. I'm one of those people who don't like doing things bits by bits. I like to do them all at once. I feel like it's supposed to be like more efficient for some reason, but I end up thinking like I think it gets more stressful. Like it's definitely a lot more stressful even if it's more efficient to do it all at once. So in this change, I decided to change my database library. I decided to change my caching system completely. I decided to I decided to change basically every single element and microservice that I was using. So, it's very, very stressful. And I think I'm just hitting the peak of my burnout. So that's probably part of it as well. What about you though?
It's funny because like I had to do exactly this. I did actually, I didn't have to, but I did exactly the same thing. Like when it came to like coding for slash commands, I also started from scratch basically and just rewrote everything from the ground up to like
Yeah,
I changed libraries, I switched from MySQL to Postgres. Like I made a bunch of other changes as well on like some of the microservices. And
yeah,
but like in the beginning, I didn't want to do it because I was like looking at the massive work I would have to do, and I was thinking this is going to be awful. But once I got started and got into the flow of things, I actually quite enjoyed it.
yeah,
So I wouldn't call it
yeah.
extreme pain. I think it's painful to think of in the beginning, but once you get started, I don't feel it's that bad, to be honest.
Yeah, I do. I definitely agree with the entire like, oh, once you get started, it's a little easier. I mean, I finished the work honestly, but I haven't tested most of the things, especially not at scale. So I think for me, my biggest pain right now is really figuring out how this will work at scale and trying to test it without it completely breaking my pot. Yeah,
Yeah, that's hard. That's hard to know. I have to, yeah, absolutely.
yeah. Yeah. Okay,
All
let's look
right.
at the next question. So the next one is from Artinis, I think. And they ask, do you believe there will be a benefit to using both slash and normal text commands? Um,
Um,
Personally, like on a personal level, I feel like there probably will be a benefit because like old users will prefer text commands. And also, um, I think this is mostly my bot, but a lot of people love spamming commands just because there are commands that allow them to gain more currency and rewards. So a lot of them love spamming commands, and in that case, I think slash commands just really don't work. Like it is like it makes it really hard to spam commands. So um, I've definitely considered that. Unfortunately, personally, I'm definitely not gonna maintain both just because it's like I think it's just a little overkill, and I don't see like the future being anything but slash commands. What about you though, Mac?
I when I did my rewrite, I made sure that like everything, like the user using slash commands and text commands have exactly the same experience. Like I wanted to make sure that the user experience was the same for both.
Yeah.
And I also started tracking usage when I released slash commands to see like how fast it's being adopted and if people are actually interested in it being maintained and stuff. And I found like since it released in February, it's been growing like month on month, even week on week. It's been growing, and the proportion of people using slash commands now, from my bot at least, is over a third of my users. And I feel
Oh,
like
that's really good.
yeah, I feel like eventually, I might consider just switching 100% to slash commands in the future, especially with
Yeah.
like the new features that are coming with some of the updates. So I'll think about it, but for now, I'm just waiting to see how it goes and see how much people adopt it, and then I'll kind of go from there.
Yeah, I think that's amazing. Wow, you went through when you went through that's really 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 good. I think I don't know if I'll be able to still have message commands. For now, I haven't planned for that, but I definitely think it's really good to consider your existing user base.
Yeah.
Okay. So the next one is from Winfinity. How would you rate Ruby when it comes to building with the Discord API? On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being like no, like hell no, and 10 being amazing. Wow, I love it.
I've
So
never
for
used
me,
Ruby.
I've also never used Ruby ever, ever. So yeah, I can't answer.
Yeah, unfortunately, we're not much help there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So next question is from Krypton. And he asks, when you started, was it more like a fun project to discover new technologies, or did you want to be kind of popular and successful?
For me, it was more like it was not a fun project to discover technologies. I've actually never really wanted to become a dev until I became a dev. In fact, for a long time, I was like, I am not a developer. Don't call me that. It was definitely not to discover new technologies. I've never really been too keen on learning new technologies. I think development is exciting, but definitely not something I want to pursue full time. So so for me that wasn't it. But I wanted to create something that would basically help people, and for me it was creating a bot that had crisis hotlines, and so that was why I started. But I think the reason why I kind of stick around is because the community has showed me how much Mimu has had like a huge impact in them, and I really like how much impact I've had on them, and it's really nice to get that kind of feedback. So yeah. What about you though, Mac?
Well, my bot had much less of like a I guess, thoughtful mission than yours does when it started out. My bot started out with just like as a fun project with friends because I'd made this like custom command on a different bot where it would like post a funny GIF of a dog eating broccoli, and they wanted it on their servers too. And it's like instead of explaining to them like this is how you set up a custom command on this bot, I was like, why don't I just make it a bot and they can just invite that and use it there? And then
Yeah.
they had like other ideas, things they wanted to add on as well. And so I was like adding on and adding on and adding on. And then I just listed it on TopGG and it started growing. And then I got into adding new features, and like complete strangers were coming up with ideas. And it was like, that's kind of how I stumbled into it.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah.
I didn't expect it to like to
Yeah,
grow
I
to
feel like
this
that's
size.
sort of what happens. It starts with kind of being a meme, and then yeah, for me, like when I started, like when I had my first bot, it was not this bot. Like I actually created another bot before, and I made it so that it only supports one server. And then I didn't realize how hard it is to change like a bot like that to support all servers. And I was like, this is a terrible idea. And so I just started from scratch. So my code base wasn't that like awful. Like it wasn't so bad that it was the worst thing in the world. So yeah. So it was a lot easier for me to get into it. And when I actually pondered, actually planned the product for over I think 3 months before I actually started coding it. So I definitely had a lot of direction. But I would have been content if I think I was like, oh, I'm probably never gonna get 100 servers, but if I do, that would be cool. And then I ended up getting 100
Yeah.
servers, so I was like, oh, this is really cool, but yeah, so it's
Yeah.
definitely not to grow or anything, just to see what impact I could make. But it would have been okay if it was just only 10 people. That would have been okay for me.
Yeah. I agree. Like also like the more time you spend building something like of quality, I feel like that also helps you grow faster because you're making something which you've really spent time thinking about. I know like in the beginning, that isn't something I did when I started out. I was just adding on silly commands for fun. But like as it grew, I started spending more time wanting to create things which aren't already out there and creating something like creating new features that are unique that I couldn't find anywhere else.
Yeah.
And so those I agree, like take more time. Like some I agree. Like I've also spent like 3 months planning a new feature and then started working on it, and it's a long process to add in some new features. And I feel
Yeah.
like those are like the things that have the most success on my bot, not the fun things I made in like half an hour back when I started. Like those commands are barely used at all. But the things I spend like more time thinking about and building and iterating on, those are the things which kind of help me stand out at least. And I feel
Yeah,
like
yeah.
it's like a good tip, maybe.
Yeah, I definitely think so as well. Yeah.
Okay, so next question then. Next question is from Spoder, and he asks, do you ever get worried your users will get bored of the bots and move on if you don't keep updating it? I have this issue right now where I believe once someone gets to the top, they no longer desire to play. How do you deal with this, and do you have any tips for me?
So, for me, because my bot is a economy bot, like I mean, it has crisis features, but it's also like an economy bot with like a kind of like a global currency system. So it's kind of a little bit like a game in Discord, right? That's how I try to explain it to people who don't know Discord. But for me, like that's kind of the experience. So what I try to do when it comes to this is I do regular updates. I actually from November up until April, I actually did back-to-back updates where I would just do event updates where it's like an event that would last for a period of time. Yeah, if you check out my patch notes, like there's a lot of that. With that said, what I try to do is I try to plan it. I try to plan ahead. I plan for a year ahead. You definitely can plan for less, like a quarter or even less, But for me, that's how I kind of planned it. It caused a lot of burnout though. So I'm trying to just space out the events and try to work on things and then ship it after a little while instead of like instantly like working and then shipping and then working and then shipping. So trying to space things out. So burnout is definitely a thing. I definitely experienced it. So just be careful, but try to do regular updates. Or if you don't feel like doing an update like down the line, try to prepare updates. Instead like ahead of time. It'll help. It'll help a lot. Yeah. What about you, Mac?
Yeah, I think it's important to like keep things fresh. I don't have like economy features on my bot, but um, I like to constantly think about like what I might add next and think about like how to create it, and also think about like what maybe my users would enjoy using as well. So I feel like yeah, so that your users don't get bored of it. I think that was the question. Then
Yeah.
yeah, try keep it fresh, and like if you aren't passionate yourself about what you're making, then I don't think you can really expect your users to be either. Um, so focus on things that maybe you enjoy making, and I'm sure there are plenty of other people out there who enjoy that too. And so that's the kind of community you want to build. You want to build a community of people who have like similar interests to you as well, I think. And I think
Yeah.
that makes things easier down the line as well.
Yeah, ultimately, remember this is a passion project. So if you need a break, take a break. Like no one can really argue with you about that. It is, especially if you're working in a very, very small team, which in most cases is the case. So take a break if you need to, and try to plan updates if you can. But there's no pressure. Like it ultimately it is like you're the star of the show here, like you're the main point. So your health comes before anything else as well.
Absolutely. Yep, totally agree. Okay,
Yeah.
so next question is from JbPlays, and he's asking, what are steps to gain intellectual rights to your property? For example, bot images or art?
Yes, actually, I have so many good answers here. So
I knew you
I
would. Yeah.
yeah,
Perfect person to ask.
I actually am very, very like dedicated towards honestly like art and copyright. It's one of the things I talk the most passionately about because I feel like, if you create something, you should have the right to own it and control where that is the case. So I think So typically what I would so the thing is, in most countries such as the US, for me, I live in Canada, so this also applies in Canada, but for the US, and you can also check your country's laws, but for most laws, for most countries, upon creating anything, you own the intellectual property of that. What I mean by that is there's sort of this created copyright the second you create something. So including your code, like upon creating it, you will have the copyright to it. What people don't understand or kind of get confused is because is this thing called trademark. Trademarking is what you need to pay for, and is typically, like, for example, let's say I own a beauty brand and I created this cool word called blah 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 and so I wanted to make this in the beauty world only something that I can use, so that's when you have to pay for it. But otherwise, when it comes to, creating your own art, or create, like, hiring someone to create the art, you should just make sure that you have the copyright to it, not to be confused with trademarking. So how do you kind of confirm this? So let's say you were commissioning, like, let's say you're not an artist and you're commissioning someone. You need to make sure you have commercial use rights, and also the full full ownership over the art. You can talk to the artist, and typically commercial use rights cost a little bit more, but is definitely worth it, just because you will be using it commercially, because you're going to be using it in ads in Top GG, for example, like listing your bot, for example, or using it on your site, like that constitutes is commercial use. So make sure you have commercial use and not personal use. And yeah, I think that's probably my biggest tip here. Yeah, so just make sure you have the licensing. Copyright is something that everyone has upon creating it. So as long as like, you definitely don't need to pay for it or something. It's not to be confused with trademarking. That's probably the best advice I can give you. Yeah, and try to work with artists that you're that are very reputable, but if not, you can also create your own art, which in case you would definitely own, so would definitely be a lot better. So yeah, and if you ever have any questions regarding to like copyright, trademarking, I'm always here. I'm super passionate about intellectual property and infringement. So yeah, Mac, do you have anything else to add?
No, really, like, I think you pretty much covered everything there. And
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, no problem. Okay,
Yeah.
let's look at the next question. So I think the next question here we have is from Spoder. It's, how did you go about pricing premium features for your bot, if you have any? Well, what about you, Mac?
Yeah, I do have some premium features, and mine works like on a monthly subscription model. I have 4 different pricing tiers, so there's something for everyone. But like, I was always very thoughtful about like implementing a premium product. I didn't want to completely block off some of my features by doing that, and so I like to kind of work off something like, I guess you could call it like a freemium model, where like the basic functionalities are available to everyone and everyone can have fun with the basic functionalities. But if you want to go further and like have some extra options, then that's like included in the premium plan. But basically, I feel like premium is kind of inevitable as you grow, because hosting costs increase, and so you can't be paying for it out of your own pocket all the time. It gets to a certain point where you kind of need that extra bit of help, especially if it's a passion product. And so yeah, I personally give part of my revenue from my premium subscriptions to Cancer Research UK, because that's something that's really close to my heart. But yeah, I think that's really all I have to say about premium. And that I don't like, how do I price it? I guess like something for everyone. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what about you?
So for me, I have a premium model and also a one-time model. the premium model is a subscription model where people basically gain premium features. All these features are always things that you do not need in your server, but provide extra customization. So my user, like the user target I have here is people who really like kind of aesthetic servers. So servers that have a lot of customizability and a lot of decoration, basically. So a lot of my users actually do opt for this, but I do want to say that something like this will only work if your market is dedicated towards someone like this. So that is the audience I'm kind of interacting with. So definitely, like, I do not gatekeep any other features other than stuff that are related to customizability, like changing the color of something, for example. So yeah, I really try to cut it down as much as possible. In terms of one-time payments, I have our global currency system. I'm gonna show really quickly. So we actually are doing a little charity fundraiser for the Trevor project right now. So try to check it out if you want to in our server. But basically we do one-time payments, and for these one-time payments, you basically get more like global rewards within bot. And for now, we're actually doing a fundraiser for the Trevor project for Pride Month. So check it out if you want to.
That's great. Trevor Project is a really good cause as well, so that's awesome.
Yeah, I think because of how diverse our community is, we actually we're a super welcoming community that really allows like so many different people, and I think it is definitely completely like it's something that I holds really close to my heart, and so yeah, I think it's really important for me to spread awareness, and we try to do these kind of charity fundraisers like around once a year for different causes. But I definitely want to do them more often, depending on whether I have time to ship things for it, basically. Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Okay, so Spoder also wants to know what is your daily routine like? How much time do you dedicate to yourself versus your bot? Do you want to go first on this, or?
Yeah, sure. So for a while, so I'm still trying to figure this out, but for a while I was working maybe 12 hours a day or so at work, and then I would and then at like maybe 8 p.m. I would work work on my bot until like 2 a.m. 4 a.m. Like it was really bad. I'm still trying to figure out what works for me, because I do school, I have a full-time job, and I also have Mimu. So I'm definitely still trying to navigate like how much time I really should be putting in my bot versus like everything else that's kind of happening. So yeah, I feel like I'm probably not that suitable to give a really good answer here. But Mac, do you want to respond to this?
My days are pretty crazy too. I feel like maybe a little less than you, but yeah, I usually get up at like 6 a.m. And then go work at my job because I have a job. And then I also run a company. And then I also run a bot, and I also work at TopGG. And so yeah, my day is pretty much a giant like juggle between my job, my company, my client work, my bot, TopGG, personal projects, pretty much all day. And so yeah, I usually try and like stop working at 10 in the evening, because I feel like I feel like getting like a good night's sleep is important, and so yeah, I usually try to stop around 10. Um,
Yeah.
and yeah, that's pretty much about it. Because I used to work I used to work unhealthy amounts, like pretty much every day of the week until like 1 or 2 a.m. and getting up really early in the morning as well, and like just not getting enough sleep. And it just wasn't sustainable. And I feel like, you can really end up burning out. And
Yeah.
I feel it's important to at least have like a couple of evenings in the week, at least, or like a day or two at the weekend if possible. I feel like it's important just to have a little bit of downtime to yourself where you're not working.
Yeah. I definitely agree. Like it's definitely not sustainable, and it's important to prioritize your health and stuff. So I see where you're coming from completely. Okay. Yeah, I think we have one final question. before. If anyone wants to raise their hand here, they can. But I
There were
think
a few in our Discord server. There were a few in the thread who just got added in since we started as well. So there are a couple more. I think
yeah,
a few
so
a few of them we have already answered, but yeah, I'll go through them and I'll
yeah. So
Okay.
I think the next question we have is, do you like chocolate cake? So I have a very deep answer here. So I'm gonna go first. So I don't like cake that has sponge in it. So like I don't like plain cake, but if it's like tiramisu or like mousse, I'm okay with that. I just don't like cake. Like the cake itself, I don't like. So chocolate cake is great as long as it doesn't have any like sponge in it. Yeah, that's my opinion. And I'm sticking to it.
All right. Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of cake really, but like I do like my favorite cake isn't chocolate cake. My favorite cake would be like vanilla sponge with strawberries and cream.
Ew, sponge. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, that's my favorite cake. Anyway, yeah. Okay, so do you wanna I'll just go and try and pick out like some questions we haven't answered from
Yeah,
the
sure.
thread. So LV asks, how should you decide on what type of bot to build, whether it's music, moderation, games, or utility?
For me, it would be choose something you're passionate about or something that you would use yourself, because you also
Yeah.
represent like a demographic. Um, don't build a bot just to build the bot, that
Yeah.
never works out.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. All right. Next question. Spoder asks, when do you suggest to begin scaling? What kind of size?
um,
Like,
so I think there's three types of scaling. The first type is like sharding. The second type is like splitting up to microservices and stuff like that. And the third type is clustering, which is like basically sharding for sharding. So
yeah.
um and then there's I guess there's also the next one, which is like splitting up to multiple different dedicated servers for your bot, which is something that you wouldn't need to really deal with until you have like a million servers, like or like 500k servers, like a lot of servers. So I'm only going to talk about the first three. So I think sharding is something you should start thinking about at around 500 to 800 servers. Definitely not later than that. But I guess it depends on how many servers you have. Sharding isn't really too difficult. So yeah, splitting to microservices anytime you have time. Do it like whenever you have time, because this is something that will kind of come up and bite you at any time. It's definitely something you should do, and it's one of those things. It's a bit like a contract. You do it for when things are good, for when things are bad. So it's very very important to do, and the way you do it is very different in every bot. But you can definitely look at how other bots kind of try to split things up. For example, for me, I have like a separate API for different things, like for our like timely incomes, for our timely reminders, etc. So stuff like that. Try to think of how you'd like to split it to be good for you, basically. Yeah, and so the final one, which is clustering, is definitely not something you need to think about until like maybe I'd say maybe 20k servers at least. Like honestly, I didn't start clustering until I was in 300k servers, but for me it was relatively late. So you can definitely think about it as something that you need to do by maybe around 100k, I would say. Yeah. Do you want to answer this as well, Mac?
Yeah, I agree. It's good to start scaling a little earlier than you really need to, just so that you can kind of like get used to it and get like know how things work and kind of learn the ropes, so that you're not doing it like when
Yeah.
it's too late and you're into like huge figures and stuff. So
Yeah,
yeah.
something I also wanted to add here is, when it comes to scaling, the best thing you should do um, is honestly honestly, the best thing you should probably do here is try to, like when you're coding, try to think of what it would be like when it's scaled instead of having to rewrite your entire bot. So I know this is difficult, especially if you don't know how to scale, but so something that really pops out in my mind, for example, is if you have communication between your shards, that's not possible with scaling. So try to think of what you like. If is this really necessary? If it's necessary, try to use something like RabbitMQ, for example, like different forms of communication queues and messaging queues for that. So think about that when you're coding it, but you don't have to instantly scale. That's also okay.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah. What's the next question?
Okay, next question is from Pufferus, and he asks, how do you suggest I get my bot more out there? My SEO is pretty much non-existent, and I'm on a limited budget. I feel like I can answer this one.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because like all of my growth is off like organic growth. I have purchased ads on TopGG twice, and they've only run for like a week. But like all my other growth is completely like organic from SEO. So I feel like for a start, like on TopGG, there's lots you can benefit from your own bot page. Like there's loads of stuff you can fill out there, lots of information you can provide on your bot page, which can help your bot appear higher in search results on Google and stuff like that. A second thing I would recommend focusing on is maybe encouraging your users to vote for your bot on TopGG, because I feel like that also, well, it's not just I feel like, but it does help your bot appear higher in search results as well on the site. So definitely encourage your users to vote. Maybe give them some rewards for voting and stuff like that. So that definitely helps you appear higher as well and get ahead of some of the other bots, because a lot of bots don't do that, like in the grand scheme of things. And so getting a bit higher up in search with a few extra votes is an easy way to get a bit more visibility, at least. And maybe like one third tip I would give is write content. Like create a website for your bots, write up content on it. Why not start a blog as well, and you can start writing about different features that your bot includes, or making like a list of like the top 10 your top 10 favorite music bots and stuff like that. And that can help kind of drive some more traffic towards your bots and help you get some growth. And that's all stuff you can do for free. Like you don't need to pay for any of that. That's all stuff you can do in your own time without spending any money. And so that's like those are a few of my tips on just how to boost your growth.
Yeah. I think I think the easiest way here is throw money at it, do auctions. But I think for me, I actually did it through voting. So something that I think I can kind of talk about really quickly here is we can first establish the fact that by having like appearing higher in the TopGG list, we do get more users coming in. Like I think that needs to be first established for this to all work. So that definitely does happen. Like you definitely do get a lot of users and stuff. And something that I also noticed was when I was going through TopGG as just a site and just kind of looking at it as just a product, I noticed that all of the highest bots are on the list are games or economy bots. You can check this right now. It is actually true. And the reason this is the case is people are typically voting. It's sorted by votes, right? They're typically voting for some sort of reward. So this is why I think it's super important. And why we kind of do this. Yeah, so I think this is really important. So reporting your users for voting is super vital. There is sort of an element of, if your bot is an economy bot, people will probably do it because they get some sort of reward or something. But that regardless, I think it's still good to find a way to kind of make them vote and encourage them to vote on a frequent stakes like time, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. We actually have a blog article about this on the TopGG blog. I just shared the link for it in the Build-A-Bot Twitter Space AMA thread on our Discord server. But you can also find it on our Twitter page. I'm pretty sure it's up there as well. So,
Yeah.
feel free to check that out. It's got like 5 tips to organically grow your Discord server or bot. So yeah.
Yeah.
All right, next question. Let's see.
I think maybe we can do one final question
One
since
final one. Yeah, we're cutting up. Yeah, it's on the hour, so maybe one last question then. We have questions about burnout, but I feel like we've covered that already. We have questions about languages. We've covered that too. We have one question from Neo, which I feel like this comes up quite regularly. What do you think about the statement, most Discord bots are becoming useless? Like, for example, there's YouTube Together, there's AutoMod now built into Discord servers, there's threaded channels that can serve as ticket systems, there are forums in the pipeline as well, and more. So, like, how do you feel about that statement? Like, Discord bots are becoming useless.
I agree. Like I can't really say anything about it. I understand like most people will prefer the kind of inbuilt stuff. Personally, I don't really see Discord replacing what I'm specifically doing right now. Like I don't really see how they would do it just because it is a game with a very like very cute aesthetic. So I think most people come for the aesthetic and nothing else. For me, I don't really think that Discord will really change this for a while. Maybe they will change some of the utilities that I bring, but when I created my bot, I definitely did think about, oh, like is it easily replaceable, or is it against TOS, with the YouTube music thing. So I definitely have thought about that when initially doing it. I don't think all Discord bots will be useless, but yeah, and there's also people who will still prefer the bot itself. For example, something that does come to mind is I think they recently added this like anti-swear thingy. So for example, something like that, it's definitely there are more bots out there. What one bot that reminds me is I think CensorBot. It checks for a lot more different different vocabulary and possibly like bypassing of the censor. So something like that, for example, is like a lot better, I think, than kind of the current Discord implementation. So, and I don't really see them really investing as much effort to perfect this kind of feature. So I don't think it'll be completely useless, but some multi-purpose bots that only do very very basic things like banning a user, for example. I definitely don't see, like I definitely see the, oh, it's kind of useless kind of thing.
Yeah, I agree. That's usually my answer as well for this kind of question. I feel like depending on what your bot does, then you're not necessarily like affected by these things. I feel like for us at least, where we work on bots that are more centered around games and economy, I don't feel like Discord's ever going to release something that might kind of jeopardize kind of like what we're working on.
Yeah,
But yeah, if you're focused mainly on moderation, then I agree. Maybe it can be an issue for you if your bot doesn't have like more advanced features. But I also feel like it's possibly a good thing because it'll push like more creativity as well from the developer community. And I feel like
yeah.
developers will have to go the extra mile to create things that are really like high quality.
Yeah, I definitely think so as well. So ultimately, I do think it is difficult, but yeah.
Yeah. All right. So I think that's all of our questions for today, and we're coming to the end of the space. So thanks everybody for your questions. They're really great. We had a few we weren't able to answer, but maybe for another time. So thanks for all your questions in the Discord thread, and thanks for joining the Twitter space. And I hope to see some of you next week. It was again this time next week in our Discord server, and it'll be streamed live on YouTube for our Build a Bot events, where we'll be teaching you how to create your first Discord bots.
Yeah. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming. It was so nice to share the experience and whatnot. Yeah. We're going to be ending now, but the recording will be saved. So yeah, thank you, everyone. Bye.
Thanks, Yara. Bye.